Welcome to this small video about innovation, or more specifically, diffusion of innovation. It's part of my marketing models series, especially about trend identification and analysis. In this diffusion of innovation, or subtype also called the trend curve, I'll be looking a little bit into what it is and how we can use it. But to start with what it is a way of pulling a little bit of emotions out of our analysis, of our identification. We put some structure in it. Diffusion of innovation is actually rather old idea, way back a couple of hundred years, but popularized in the 60s with the book Diffusion of Innovation, which has come in several variations over the years. The diffusion of innovation, and as I write here also the diffusion of innovation types, is sometimes a little bit confusing, but in essence it is a group, a topic which is diffused when we're talking about innovation. That could be direct manufacturing tools versus a specific 3D printing technology. When we're looking at diffusion of innovation, we have a number of groups, and the first one taking up the innovations are called the innovators. They are 2.5% of the total population. Therefore, in business terms, not that interesting, but they're really interesting in terms of defining or identifying where things are moving. So if an innovator has picked up an innovation, well, there's a probability that they will move forward. The next ones are the early adopters, 13.5% of the total population here. They are the ones who see the idea. They might see the innovators thought initially, that's strange, but they'll try it out and find out, okay, this is actually something working. Whereas the early majority, and to a large extent the late majority, both of them 34% of the total population, are the ones who really makes the difference. They are the ones who popularizes the innovation, moves it from buzzword to an actual thing. This is also a part of the reason why you see the second movers in business often do quite well, because the first movers, they need to address the innovators and to some extent the early adopters. But someone, say Apple with their iPhone, they were not first mover, they were second mover. Microsoft with their operating system, also second mover. There were others beforehand who paved the way with the innovators and making sure to make all the errors there. So when we're looking at it, we're looking at it from a business perspective. It's interesting to identify the innovators and the early adopters, but we want to hit the full market scale in early adopter or early majority. Which leads me to, how can we then identify these peoples? Well, if we're looking at it from an individual perspective, people are taking in innovations in a number of stages. First stage is awareness. Something out there. Second one is interesting. Something out there, and it's actually interesting. Maybe I should look into it. Therefore, I make a decision. The decision is then taken, I implement, I use it, and then I talk about it in my confirmation and I describe it. This is happening at each of the levels, both the innovator, early adopter, early majority, late majority, and the laggards. All of these ones go through the same process, but the awareness comes from the group before. So therefore, the foundation of the innovation diffusion theory is communication socially. That's also why we do see a rather big uptake in innovations the last years after the spread of the internet, and we can see innovations popping up from more directions now. There are also some characteristics in the different groups. The homophilia, or the love of sameness, is characterized in the late majority and the laggards. They want to be like everybody else. My grandmother has an iPhone. Well, she's a laggard and she likes to be like her friends. She'll never buy the newest one. Whereas my son loves new experience and is a classic innovator, or to some extent early majority. He loves new experiences and is therefore possible to identify as one of them. So an innovator or an early adopter loving new experience, being aware of something or interested in something, there we have something that we can pinpoint. Thank you for watching this small video. See you in the next one. Bye.